What is good, YouTube? My name is George. Welcome to another video. So this is the second video in a new series I'm doing called Skate Academic Article Reviews. I really enjoyed doing this the first time with the University of Southern California study, and I got really great feedback from all of you. And there's honestly more academic articles about skateboarding than I thought. If you just search for skateboarding on Google Scholar, there are tons and tons of articles. I am so stoked about the article we're going to be looking into today. It is literally about street versus park skating in New York City. Before we jump into this article, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. If you don't already know about Skillshare, which you probably should by now considering I've talked about them in like 100 videos, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes and millions of members. If you're curious about learning a new skill, or maybe you're just a little bit bored due to the quarantine and you have some extra time on your hands, you're gonna find a class on Skillshare that pushes your creative button. Assuming that exists. No, but seriously, Skillshare pretty much has a class. Hello. Skillshare pretty much has a class in every subject you can think of, from YouTube to podcasting to productivity to art. I just checked out a class called Writing for Self-Discovery because I've been super into journaling lately. Got this bad boy right here. It's got a lot of deep, dark secrets, so I can't show you guys, but the class taught me a lot of insights about writing for self-care, and I'm really enjoying it. Skillshare is currently offering 2 months of premium membership for free to the first 1,000 viewers who click the link in my description box. And if you want to continue after the 2 months, Skillshare comes out to less than 10 bucks a month for an annual membership. Much love to Skillshare for helping me afford rent and food. It's also a great platform and I'm really happy to work with them, so check it out. And now let's talk about this freaking skate article. As much as I love this wall, you guys are gonna have to look at this wall because I need to go on my computer to, you know what I'm saying. So I first wanted to briefly talk from the heart about why I am personally obsessed with street skateboarding right now. And it's a very recent thing too. It only happened during the quarantine. Pretty much every skate park in New York City shut down. So for a brief window of time, my entire skateboarding life took place on a flat ground volleyball court. I was literally just playing games of skate over and over and over again. But then my friends and I kind of got bored. We started bouncing the ideas around about skating street, and then we ended up going on street missions. And then one thing led to another. Now we're planning this whole full-length homie street video. We've gone on probably over 10 to 15 street missions. We've gone on a skate trip to Boston. I'm even watching full-length skate videos more than I ever have. It's gotten to a point where I'm way more apathetic towards skate parks than I've ever been in my entire life. And it's quite funny to be going through this personal experience and then to shift to reading this like professional academic language about street and park skateboarding literally in New York City. Let's get into it. So here's page 1, contestation and conformity. These are going to be the main themes of the article, and contestation is going to roughly correspond with street skateboarding, and conformity is going to roughly correspond with skate parks. And we got a picture of Union Square right here, which is a popular skateboarding spot. If you roll by this area, you'll pretty much always see skaters there, so definitely a fitting image. This article examines why skateboarders persist in their use of public space even in the face of extensive regulation and the provision of skate parks. So obviously you and I as skateboarders, we know why we continue to skate street, and it's interesting to see this question being explored in an academic context. So this paragraph up here, I believe, is referred to as the abstract, and this is pretty much the summary of everything that's going to be talked about. Differences between street and park skating are presented by utilizing 3 dimensions. Got some fancy language here. The social production of public space, the social control imposed on skaters, and the discursive construction of skateboarding. These sound confusing right now, but they're broken down later. Each one is a super interesting piece of the puzzle that you guys are all going to relate to. The governance of public space needs to adapt to the changing needs of multiple users rather than excluding a few without any attempt at accommodating them. What this sounds like to me is that the author is suggesting maybe that skateboarding should be allowed in public spaces, or there should be more negotiation about what's allowed. I mean, obviously building skate parks is a way for a government to accommodate skateboarders. But you know, the interesting thing is that the beauty of street skateboarding, I believe, actually relies heavily on the fact that we're not supposed to be doing it, and the fact that street spots were not made for skateboarding. If suddenly it becomes acceptable to street skate in an urban or public environment, does that somehow diminish the beauty of street skateboarding and the value that we as a skateboarding culture place on street skateboarding? Super interesting to think about. out. Here's something I never knew. In 1996, New York City enacted a law restricting skateboarding on sidewalks and public plazas. Apparently skateboarding is technically illegal in New York City. As an alternative, the Department of Parks and Rec provided 16 skate parks citywide. This article clearly frames skate parks as a mechanism for the city to prevent street skateboarding. But then why do skateboarders persist in their use of public space even in the face of extensive regulation and the provision of skate parks? Right, so that's the main question of the article. Why are we still skating street? Even I know the answer, because that shit is fun as shit. To answer this question, it is necessary to investigate the differences between street skating and skate park skating. Yeah, this is like the intellectual version of a clickbait title. Skate parks versus street? Skateboarding is commonly characterized as a transgressive activity that challenges the regulations imposed on urban space. I looked up this word transgressive, involving a violation of accepted or imposed boundaries, especially those of social acceptability. That's right. The system. And yeah, I wanted to point out this Borden 1998 reference. I actually have this dude's book. To my understanding, in the skateboarding academic world, this is the overview of what skateboarding is, and this is referenced a lot in every skateboarding study I've seen. Definitely plan on making a video about this one too once I get through this chonker of a book. Skateboarders demonstrate an awareness of the built environment and perceive the city and its physical elements in ways different from non-skaters. We look at a handrail and it presents so much opportunity for us, but obviously a normal human being is not going to think twice about a handrail. Spaces that young skateboarders prefer are those that offer accessibility, sociability, compatibility, and opportunities for tricks. Spaces with opportunities for tricks is the intellectual terminology for a skate spot. Skateboarding as an urban practice is a demonstration of how citizens traverse the spatial planning power structure that restricts citizens' uses of and right to the city. An entire city is so meticulously planned, and when a city is planned, they have specific ways in which they envision citizens using the city, and obviously skateboarding is not one of them. And that's like the whole thing, right? We're using an environment that isn't made for us, and that is what we find so satisfying about it. The successful design of public space should evolve with time and adapt to the changing needs of all citizens rather than excluding a few without any attempt at accommodating them. I don't actually think it's possible to accommodate skateboarders. I believe in my heart that we're always going to seek out what we're not actually supposed to skate. For example, let's say a utopian city was designed where everything was purposely built as a street spot to be easy to skate. I don't think we'd be as intrigued by it. I think we would treat those purposely built spots more as skate parks instead of actual street spots, and we'd continue to skate spots that we're not allowed to skate or not supposed to skate. Alright, so the article briefly goes into the history of skateboarding and the provision of skate parks. If you guys haven't seen the Dogtown and Z-Boys documentary about the early history of skateboarding in California, highly recommend it. And I think the most notable thing here is that skateboarding was literally born out of the streets. So the article mentioned swimming pools, drainage channels, and schoolyards for skateboarding. Hell freaking yeah, man. I mean, of course skateboarding was born in the streets because skateboarding didn't exist, so it wasn't even possible for anything to be built for skateboarding. And I strongly believe that these early roots in street skateboarding is one of the main reasons that we still value street skating as a culture today. In the late 1970s, escalating complaints from the public about street skaters led to the construction of skate parks. I guess there were Karens back then too. But then in the 1980s, construction costs, declining participation, and insurance problems led to the closure of many skate parks. But skateboarding did not disappear when it fell out of popularity. Rather, skateboarders returned to the city streets or escaped to deserted spaces by the suburbs. So this is almost exactly parallel to what happened during quarantine. I know it's not only my friend group and I think there was a mass movement back into the streets, and I think it's gonna have long-lasting effects actually. Skaters can not only skate on the sidewalks, but also ride up walls, banks, steps, benches, handrails, and street furniture. Yo bro, I found this epic new skate spot. It's got mad street furniture that presents many opportunities for tricks if you're trying to go check it out. I'm gonna text that to Danny right now. The provision of skate parks once again became a political agenda in the mid-1990s, and obviously that hasn't changed. Skate parks are continuing to just show up all over everywhere. Skateboarding is commonly characterized as an activity that challenges the social norms and consumerist logic of urban space. Essentially, this paragraph says that skateboarding doesn't fit nicely into the capitalist capitalist system that we live in, and that's why skateboarders are commonly considered trespassers, because they violate social rules of the city and occupy space without engaging in consumption or production. When I'm with the skate homies, we're just going to find new skate spots, and it's very, very removed from capitalism because there's no intent on like purchasing shit. I mean, obviously we'll buy food because we need it, but I think you know what I'm saying. Through their physical performances, skaters refuse to accept a city as it is produced. They challenge the capitalist logic of architecture and urban planning and redefine space and the city. Roads, footpaths, railing, stairs, and handrails are stripped of their symbolic values and given new values. I just thought that whole paragraph was incredibly beautiful and really nicely encapsulates the experience of street skateboarding and the fact that it is sort of this anti-society experience. Here's another point that I really like. Skateboarders disrupt the city by obscuring the boundaries used to differentiate people of different economic and social classes by traveling across urban and suburban areas. Since our motivation for traveling has to do with literally skate spots, we often get to experience such a different cross-section of the city, like different cultural pockets, different socio-economic pockets. You know, we even get to see like the backs of industrial complexes and random parking lots and schoolyards, and we hop fences to see shit, and it's just like such a different experience of the city. And I can't really think of many other activities that would allow you to experience a city in this way. Manhattan is skateboarders' favorite borough because of the diverse physical environments that it offers. Agree to disagree, my man. I like skating in Brooklyn. I also live here, so maybe that's why. Okay, and you remember those three main dimensions that explain street versus park skateboarding that were mentioned in the abstract? Here's where we're going to dive into each one. First up, the social production of public space. Let's figure out what the heck that means. The city is continuously reshaped by people's social and spatial practices. One of these spatial practices is skateboarding, which is a unique form of spatial practice through which a particular group of people creatively engages in the process of social production of everyday space. Essentially what this means to me is that the fact that skateboarders use the city in this way actually changes what the city is. Skaters privilege mundane objects. It's true. They're not mundane to us though. The city is broken up into a series of independent elements and then reassembled into a new cognitive map. That was beautiful. I mean, think about your brain when you're on a street mission in the city. The way you're thinking about the city is so different from anybody else. Oh, it's such a beautiful way to interact with the city. I love it. A space such as Brooklyn Banks is first materially produced by architects and landscape architects, step one, and then socially reproduced by people engaging in the uses of this space. You know how earlier we were talking about how the use of the space by skaters actually transforms the space? Brooklyn Banks is a phenomenal example. We, by skating it all the time, transformed what that plaza is. The rich experiences of street skateboarding account for why skaters prefer skating in naturally afforded environments rather than purposely built ones. For street skaters, such a spatial practice provides an urban journey, which is more important than the destination. They roll down the street, stop to hit an object, and keep moving to look for the next adventure. From neighborhood to neighborhood, they get to watch diverse people and scenes while discovering small hidden areas. Checking out relaxing people on the stoops, hectic deliverers on bikes, dog runners, struggling musicians, and so on, skaters observe everyday street life while playing an active part of it. I love skateboarding. Holy f***. In various rhythms and from different angles, they are arguably the sharpest and most dedicated urban observers. F*** yeah, dude. This is so beautiful. I'm about to cry. A New York City skateboarder is a modern flaneur, enchanted by the urban spectacle. Yeah, this just so makes me think of my Boston trip. I was seeing shit other people wouldn't have seen. Compared to street skating, skating in skate parks is a conformist way of using space within a designated area. Yeah, when you put it this way, skate parks sound a lot more lame. I almost feel like I'm reading the Bible for core skaters right now. Generally speaking, in any setting, people prefer the environment where they can maximize their ways of using space. So with that said, it makes perfect sense that street skateboarding is often preferable. A lot of the times when I'm skateboarding, I just like feeling expansive and like pushing hard and just like letting my body flail. And a lot of the times in a skate park, you can't feel that way. You literally feel constrained. Dimension 2, the social control imposed on skateboarders. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. This has to do with skaters getting kicked out by police officers, angry citizens, calling the cops on us, whatever. Gotta love those Karens. All those misconceptions about skateboarders that were noisemakers, graffiti graffiti writers, juvenile delinquents, or simply hoodlums. Yeah, that kind of is what we are. Private security agencies, police officers, and citizens from the neighborhood constitute a joint partnership that monitors skateboarding in privately owned public spaces. You know, since we don't use the urban space how it's supposed to, the society and the system, they form together and they come to get us. They want us to fit in and go into that fenced-in skate park and like be good citizens. Skateboarders partially accept the alternatives but never become fully disciplined citizens. That's kind of a good balance. You know, when you're at the skate park, it's like, all right, you're being a good citizen, but then when you go on your street mission, you're being a bad citizen. Almost sounds like we're like dogs that are in the process of being trained. Okay, the last dimension, the discursive construction of skateboarding. Sounds very confusing, but at the bottom line, what this means is how skateboarding is actually portrayed in culture, in videos, in writing, etc. Specifically, skaters make videos and take photographs to share techniques, celebrate remarkable performances, and disclose great locations. So you could think Thrasher magazine, whether it's the physical print or the full lengths they post on their channel. It's all street skateboarding. Street skateboarding is the content that is the real skateboarding as far as skate culture defines it, and the fact that that is constantly pushed out on the internet. Every skate brand, what makes them a real skate brand is their full-length video. That's how they get respect in the skate world. I'm participating in this process now too. By making my own full-length, I'm reinforcing skateboarding culture's idea that street skateboarding is valued over skate park skating. Street skating is considered more appropriating, liberal, and real, 100%, and it requires additional courage and creativity, so it is often held in a much higher regard among the skateboarding community. You can definitely tell this author is a skater. I'm sure the interviews helped, but yeah, this is exactly how I feel. Skating in the skate parks is considered less real and cool than skating in the streets. You know, I don't agree with less cool. I mean, I agree that's how skateboarding sees it. I don't think I personally agree. I believe people should skate however they want to, but can't deny that's how skateboarding culture views street versus park. I really love this comparison between skateboarding and graffiti artists, which touches on that nuance of like, if a street spot becomes sanctioned, does it take away from how much we value it? Apparently at some point in New York City, blank billboards were actually put up for graffiti artists to use, but nobody continued painting on them because it changed the cultural meaning of graffiti. And we're getting some awesome thunder right now, digging the vibes, rainy vibes. And that makes me think about the Heaven skate park, which actually fully sanctions graffiti. And I wonder how graffiti artists feel about doing their artwork on a sanctioned space. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the article. I really like this article. I mean, I almost feel like everything I just read is something that I have already internalized as a skateboarder, but it was really special to read this in such a concrete, well-worded, well-thought-out way about why street skateboarding is so beautiful, why skate parks just don't be really hitting the same, and how skateboarding culture reinforces our value in street skateboarding. Yeah, the only unanswered question I have in my head is, do we want to be sanctioned, or does that f it up? You know, the last thing I'll say is how like street skating is beautiful. I encourage you to try to dive into street skateboarding, try to find a squad that you can explore the city with, because if you do that, you guys are gonna freaking experience life together in a way that a skate park is not gonna afford you. And yeah, if this changed any of your own perspectives on skate parks and skateboarding, let's get that fat discussion in the comments. Thanks again, Skillshare, for sponsoring this one. Link at the top of the bio, and I really appreciate you guys for watching as always. Shred on. I'm gonna eat some food now. Goodbye. I am too stoked. Shit, I probably want a screen record. Blah, blah, blah. Skaters prefer the national, blah, blah, blah. TLDR. No, I don't need to say that out loud. Yeah, you know, street skateboarding, baby.